We're witnessing an unprecedented wave of anger. Millions of people have taken part in mass protests around the world recently.
Motivation for the demonstrations differ, but there's a commonly held view. People are fed up with the status quo.
Cities around the world are alight. From Bogota to Baghdad, millions have taken to the streets.
We are seeing more unrest globally than we have at least in the last 30 or 40 years.
In many cases, protests have led to clashes with authorities and deaths. At least 26 in Chile in protests against cuts to social services, 11 in French Yellow Vest protests, and dozens in Iraq in countrywide anti-corruption demonstrations. While protests in Algeria, Georgia, Bolivia, Brazil, Mexico, Turkey and Hong Kong have also turned violent. The chaos in Colombia has reached critical levels. A curfew for the entire capital was put in place amid protests over systemic corruption.
Every day a new person, a new high-ranking government officer is involved in a new scandal. And then they get convicted, maybe they go to jail, maybe not. And then 5 or 6 years after, they are still involved in politics and they're still making a lot of money.
The specific demands for each protests are unique, yet there are common themes in the movements.
There's a pervasive sense that the political establishment has failed us. It's failed the people in some way. And that goes a bit deeper than just saying it's about inequality or it's about climate change. It's a failure of the political establishment to be dealing with these kinds of problems.
In most developed and developing nations, the gap between rich and poor is growing. And there's a growing sense a smaller number of people or elites have increasing control.
So I think for a lot of people who feel excluded from this, they feel as though there's another group of people who have all the power and they're winning and the people are losing.
Finding a solution to these problems and ending the unrest is far from simple.
I respect peace and ask for peace. In all these countries with problems, we need to rationalise things and call for dialogue and peace to resolve the problems.
We're seeing around the world people losing faith with the political system itself, and it takes an enormous amount of work to rebuild that faith and to rebuild that legitimacy. And I see that as the great challenge that we have in the years ahead.
Until then, expect to see more fiery scenes and anger on the streets. Brent O'Halloran, Sky News.